Welcome back, folks. I'm Ryan Bottensek, and today we're going to show you how to can striped bass. Now, our first step is to wash our jars. Here we have pint-sized jars and half-pint-sized jars, and you want to make sure you wash them with soapy water, hot soapy water, and rinse them well. Now, our next step, we will cut our striper into chunks, which we've already done here, about 2 inches. And then we will take a large pot and a small pot and put them to a boil, and we will now sterilize our jars. And we'll probably do this for about 5 minutes. And we will put the jars in the bigger pot and the rings and the lids in the smaller one. It has been 5 minutes. We will now remove our jars using a pair of tongs. And we will take the lids and the rings out with a magnet. We will now gently pack our jars with the striper chunks. And when we do this, we want to make sure we leave about 1 inch of headspace from the top. Now that first jar is done, we will put a half teaspoon of canning salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper into the jar. Now that we have our salt and pepper in, we will gently wipe the rim with a damp, hot towel. We will now take a magnet and take one of our lids and set it on top of the jar gently, and we will also use a magnet to take our ring out. We'll then hand tighten it, and that's our first one done. Leaving 1 inch headspace, adding our seasonings, wiping the rim, our lid, and our ring. Hand tightened. There you have it. They're now ready for the pressure cooker. We will now start placing our cans. We have preheated our pressure cookers to the water being a simmer, and we're going to make sure that we put 4 to 5 inches of water in our pressure cookers to begin with. So now we're going to start putting our cans in. Using a pair of tongs, we're going to gently lift our jars in one at a time, and we're going to start with the bottom layer. Being careful not to burn ourselves with the hot water. And this is what it looks like. Carefully have them spaced out. We will now go ahead and put in a divider. You don't have to use one, but if you don't, you gently set them on top of the other jars. We're going to go ahead and put it on top of those jars. Being careful not to touch the water. And now we'll start on our second layer. Same thing, carefully set them in there, one at a time. We'll now put our lid on. You see here, it has an open and a close with an arrow. There's also an arrow on the handle. You line them up, and you close your lid. This is a weighted gauge pressure cooker. We will leave it off for about 10 minutes and then put our gauge on. But for now, we'll keep it off for 10 minutes, let it warm up. And you also need to adjust your pressure depending on what altitude you are. If it is above 1,000 feet, you might want to look online to see what kind of pressure you need to be cooking at. But here we're below 1,000 feet, so we don't have to worry about it. We're going to have it at 10 pounds of pressure. Both of our canners are full. They have had their weighted gauges off for 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and put our weighted gauges on. Now we will build our pressure up to 10 and we are going to start our time. We will have our time go for 100 minutes. We are now above 10 pounds of pressure. Setting our timer for 100 minutes. Now these pressure cookers are kind of touchy. I use an outdoor burner because I don't like the smell in my house. You can use it on your stove or whatever. But after you get up to 10, you want to absolutely make sure you don't get it below 10. As long as you keep it in between 10 and 15 pounds, you'll be fine. But you might have to fiddle around with your heat to adjust it to the right temperature to keep it from going below or high over 15. It has been 100 minutes. We have let the pressure go back down to 0. And when you do that, you want to make sure you turn your heat off and take your weight off after it has reached 0. And then wait about 10 minutes before taking the lid off. Now we'll go ahead and take our lid off. Using our tongs, taking our cans out one at a time. You now make a spot in your kitchen to store the cans for about 24 hours. And what I did here is I put a towel at the bottom of them to set them on. And you want to make sure, be careful with the lids and not touch them until about 24 hours. And then you go and you check your lids to make sure that they have sealed. And then there you have it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.